as a company, we started in 2015. We call ourselves a small data science company solving big problems. And one of my favorite quotes is, "Big things have small beginnings." And so a small team like ours has to be efficient in order to solve big problems. And where this presentation will lead to is the toolkit and platform we've developed in order for us to deploy industrial grade solutions in short time with high fidelity accuracy. Just a bit of background, you can find it on our website, but we're in a number of industries. Our dominant ones right now are in the energy space. So we've worked with a host of different oil and gas companies, real estate industries, community engagement, health and wellness, and pro sports. Just a few examples. We have some really amazing work going on with IPC right now in the energy space, where we're solving, probably in my opinion, one of the most complex SAGD problems yet for us. We're close partners with Boardwalk, looking over 33,000 different assets, and pricing opportunities there, incorporating things like census and local data. Our first client ever being the YMCA, and that eventually extended itself to the United Way, where we work on community engagement, looking to make the community healthier and identifying problem areas that we can, turn our focus to. And of course, the Calgary Flames, doing things from, analyzing scout data, doing player assessment, line optimization, and things of that nature. So the first thing I want to address today is we want to be offering, and just to sort of set the stage for my part of this presentation, is what are some tangible things that we can offer as advice, as sage advice, that we've learned in the past 6 years. The first thing is that there are these limiting beliefs about data analytics, and these reservations, there's a list of them here, and these are the ones that we've run into time and time again. So I can understand that the audience tonight, we may be working for an organization, we may be looking to provide analytics to an organization as a client, but these limiting beliefs can be within our own large organization in different departments, or again, it could be a potential client or partner. So one of the things is previous experience. That one's a bit hard to dispel, the limiting belief. If somebody had an experience that it was too costly, there was cost overrun, the accuracy wasn't there, whatever the team was, they didn't really understand the subject matter expertise that was required to sufficiently solve the problem. This is something that, you can only build, through the rapport you build with your own team, and doing the homework to make sure that, when you're communicating with either the department or the potential client, that you're communicating that expertise and you're looking at your blind spots. Cost is another one. There's obviously, especially with COVID and the way the market has gone in the last couple of years, there's been these budgets cuts across different organizations. So the limiting belief there can be, it's going to cost way too much. It's going to cost $10 million to get a solution, and furthermore, it's going to take a year and a half to get there. There can be a limiting belief about the team's capacity to be able to actually get behind and drive a solution, or furthermore, your own team's capacity to do that. Resources, more so than cost, but resources we could consider data, like the actual resources. Does the data exist? Do we have the expertise in-house to facilitate data transfer, data capture, and then of course data infrastructure? A lot of times, especially the larger the organization, you will find that the data is across these cross-functional lines. They don't really talk to each other. They could be different types of databases, right? You could have a graph database, you could have an SQL, isolated systems, and of course, there's the privacy and security concern. Outcome versus opportunity, and this one's really important, and this is probably the most relevant limiting belief that we can run into, is that there's this limiting belief that says, well, I don't think that a machine or an algorithm can outperform our current operations, our current expertise. And that could very well may be the case. But of course, if we've already have a solution deployed, or if we have an instance or an example where we know that it works, that is one way to dispel that limiting belief. And this is my favorite one, but we've seen data analytics. I remember when White Whale started, when we threw out the term machine learning, to an organization, it was very brand new. It was exciting. They hadn't seen it before. Same thing, more or less, with data analytics as an umbrella term. And right now, there's a lot. The market's becoming a bit more saturated. And what we'll find, what we wouldn't have found 6 years ago, was that we knock on someone's door and say, hey, here's machine learning. Well, they've already had maybe 5 or 10 calls or offers, in the same space. And sometimes it's just like, well, no, like just everywhere. We're all kind of jumping on the same board here. And sometimes it feels like a fad. So the reason I'm showing these things is, and what my colleague here will get to, is that using a platform like DeepSea and using a process that White Whale has, we can dispel every one of these limiting beliefs. For example, it feels like a fad. Well, we've been doing this before it was a fad. We have many examples across industry of where we've shown a huge ROI, return on investment, and return on time. DeepSea is able to handle infrastructure. It does not require a lot of resources. We are very fast. We only require a small capacity from your team. We are very cost competitive, and the experience with us, if you can judge us by the success we've had with clients and the retention, it will be a good experience. So I'm going to use the term prospect, and this is because, again, I'm trying to approach both sides of it. So whether or not you're in your own organization, you could say this department is a certain prospect, my maintenance department, or maybe it's my engineers. And then if you're not working in an organization, maybe it's an actual prospect, a potential client for you to develop data, a solution for. And so there's 3 types. One is a non-prospect. These are the non-prospects. It's when that list of limiting beliefs is so great and entrenched that there's too many of them. There's a general lack of interest, perhaps, and this can happen. This can happen in the NHL sometimes. If there's it can happen, right? Because introducing something as new as machine learning into something that has always been, facilitated by people using our intuition and our eyes, there could be a lack of interest in saying, well, I'm not even interested in replacing that. A non-prospect is one that poorly communicates. They don't have time, they may even say. If they're already going with a different solution and they've made that very clear, don't try to introduce something new if they're already committed. And of course, the no budget part. And so this I hope this does apply and everyone can see that, whether or not you're talking within an organization or if you're looking at a prospective one. And the reason I want to show this, again, I want to give tangible advice, is that you want to put your energy and your focus in the right place, and you will find that your own resources, your own time, will merit nothing if you try to deliver a solution to a non-prospect. There's the on-the-fence prospect. This is where they have some of those limiting beliefs, and this is the most interesting case. They may have concerns with a few of those things. Is it going to cost too much? Or, I need this really fast, or I don't have the right team size to really get behind this and drive. These are departments or organizations or clients. They may have concerns whether or not it's possible, but so long as they agree with delivering a solution that it will have a lot of value add, and they can at least agree to that, then that's on the fence, and that's really good. So they may not say, well, yeah, I believe that this is possible. Maybe they don't think it is, but at least they agree that there is a value to providing something. Happy to assist with questions. You need to have that interaction, give reasonable support, openly communicates. And, they could say, well, this is out of my wheelhouse, but, I don't want to drive, but I'm happy, I have the fare. Another way of saying, I do have some resources and budget that I can put into this, and I trust you guys to take it away. And then there's the eager prospect. This is virtually no limiting beliefs. This could be somebody, you have somebody with an idea in the organization, they eagerly communicate. I really think that we should be using machine learning, for our predictive maintenance. They see a canopy above the low-hanging fruit. And what we mean by that is they don't just see a solution as, that's the end game. I just want this one solution and I'm done. They see it as something that's just the beginning, and that it will dovetail and it will grow into many other different applications that will also have value add, ROI and ROT. They're excited to even take the wheel and say, you know what, I'm gonna steer this thing. I'm gonna, I'll be there to help validate, to help answer questions, and push this within my own organization. They've done their homework on the subject, meaning that they've looked around, they've seen use cases, and and they understand what you're talking about. They understand the value of data science, and they can see instances that are either similar or identical to what you're looking to build, and they can see the success stories and they're aware of them. And the best thing of all, if they have their own idea, where they say, hey, can you use data science or machine learning to do this? I have this great idea, then that's perfect. Eager prospects are really good. I like the on the fence prospects. Why? Because every time you can dispel a limiting belief, either with your product or your team, you have now, it's like there's a challenge in front of you. And that is how you refine your process. And if the limiting belief was that it costs too much, then you have to drive down that cost. You have to be able to make it available at low cost. Whereas if it's just eager, you don't really have to, you're not really on your toes as much. You're not just being reactive. And maybe you're not learning about these other limiting beliefs that they have that you need to address to have a successful solution. I don't think it will scale. I don't know how to share it. Okay, well, we need sharing. We need to be able to scale these things. I don't think the security is good enough. Okay, well, let's address that. And so on the fence, if you can get them over it, internally, externally, it's a huge win. And that's how you really refine a product. The crystal ball question, and this is really the root. This is the most important part of data analytics, in my opinion. And this is why organizations, and this is our belief, is we always believe that there's these champions inside of an organization. When we say solutions come from within, not from without, it means no one's going to bring them this golden solution. It already exists within the organization because the subject matter experts and the people that have been working there for over a decade, right? They know their organization intimately. No two organizations are the exact same. And the biggest challenge for data, like if you can figure out what is the best question I can ask, that if I get an answer to this question, only one, but let's say I get the right answer to it, it has the absolute greatest value add to my organization. And I'll give you an example. So the key is, you don't need to have a team of 12 PhDs to come in and then sort of, train up, bring in all this excess technology that maybe people aren't comfortable understanding in your own organization. You don't need that. Organizations understand the nuances of their operations better than anyone else can. And they know what their actual bottlenecks are. They know that maybe something that's relevant for the guy across the street that's still, maybe selling the same thing, they may have different issues, right? It's like the difference between, a FedEx and, what's the one? UPS. So those two companies are both effectively do the same thing. But the difference is that FedEx has lots of hands touching the product. They are the best at moving it with airplanes. UPS is not as good at that, but they have basically everything moving, and there's only two people to touch the actual package before it gets there. So they're different. So you can't bring the same solution to both. Asking the right question, without a doubt, is the most important element of data analytics. If you ask the wrong question, we'll get there in the next slide. And then there's no need, in my opinion, software companies, this is what we do. Our specialty, our expertise is handling that front end, back end, security, UI, tying that all up together and giving the space to live where either it's us that deploy a model or it's internal for, we call like a industry data scientist to be able to just take their model in Python, take that model, copy and paste it basically into DeepSea, and to take that into the cloud and make it a product in a matter of minutes. I've highly, this is a strong point for Whitewell, and it's one of our greatest strengths. So I'm going to give you an example of a crystal ball question. So let's say if you have a hot dog stand, right? And you're only allowed to ask the crystal ball one thing, and you get the guaranteed correct answer, we'll say. So one of the things could be like, what kind of hot dog should I sell? What should my hours be? You know, what do I charge for the hot dog? What items should I sell in addition to hot dogs? What go well with them? And like, if I'm going to bundle these things together, do I discount them? Or where do I set up my hot dog stand? And so out of all things here, the crystal ball question, in my opinion, is where do I set up my hot dog stand? Because you could say, you know, they could say, well, you want to sell your hot dogs for $1, right? Like whatever, $1 hot dog. Now you're going to go figure out, okay, where do I put it? Where is that place where people, the willingness to spend is $1, right? And you don't want to put it somewhere where selling it at such a rate at low value, people are going to walk right by because they're like, oh, it's only $1. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to back up from this question, the crystal ball question, and why it's the crystal ball. Because this question sets up everything. If you know that you're in the right place to sell hot dogs, the remainder of the questions can actually all be answered knowing that you're in the right place. So should I bundle them together? What should I sell? What should I charge? Well, if you're in Beverly Hills, you know what? That's probably a different answer, right? Than if you're in, you know, a very low income area. What should my hours be? Well, if you're, you know, if you know you're in the right place and there's 2 rushes, you know, or maybe it's a night area, you can solve all of these questions. And this is the one you want to get right, because what we can potentially agree to is that the most successful hot dog stand in the world is probably in a really good place for a hot dog stand. Now let's look at a SAG-D scenario. And again, I'll start up here. How much production can I expect? You know, maybe, you know, for my diluent, what is the chloride content of this forecasted production? How can I maximize it? You know, how do I attenuate my subcool levels across my wells? How do I reduce SOR? Again, the crystal ball question is, what are my optimal set points for every well in my field? And knowing this, we can then create a better forecast. We know that the optimal set point must attenuate subcool correctly so that there's no breakthrough. We know that optimal means efficient SOR without just turning off, you know, the steam and sucking the well dry. We know that optimal means maximizing it, and we know that we're not going to have too many chlorides for processing. So if we were to approach either one of these, they don't come, it's not until they all come together and we know what that real question is where the rest fall out. And hydraulic fracturing, you know, again, just for the sake of repetition, how much does one well produce? Okay, well, what about all my wells? So basically type curves, summation of type curves. You know, what portion of my production will be condensate? And in this case, knowing this, how do I optimize my processing, knowing what my total production will be, and then knowing what kind of products I want to produce, you know, since I can put 5% ethane in there and still and upgrade it, right? When do I drill a new well is another thing, right? So that you can have the answers to all of these, but then from these, you have to kind of say, well, I just want to know when I want to drill a new well. And that kind of encompasses, well, when your production's falling, et cetera. And then this is something that fell out of it all. Are there wells that need maintenance? Why is this a crystal ball question? Because if you're looking at all these type curves and all of a sudden the production of a well falls off. So this is, let's say you have a 99% accurate type curve, and then it's been doing that for the last 300 days. Then all of a sudden this type curve is 50% accurate. Do we really expect it to be 50% accurate? It's not quite reasonable given that it was so accurate for the whole curve. So what it's probably indicating is that there's a data issue, or that the well itself is having an issue. You know, maybe it's choked, maybe there's sand down there. And therefore, address that problem so that it doesn't get lost in the noise to say, oh God, our production is going way down. We're looking at the numbers, our forecast just dropped, and now I want to go drill, you know, a $2.5 million well, when you could have spent 150,000 to fix another well, and it would have corrected the rest of this, right? It would have fixed all this. So I hope this is making sense. The value of and this is why the organization themselves is so important. That it is really them that know their business the best, and they are the ones who know this is the actual question that I would love an answer to, and if I have the answer to this, it is the end game. And I'm saying that these are kind of the same, but and before I turn it over to Britta here, this is my most important notice. That's why I made the font so big. And this goes internally, externally again. You have to be able to measure success. To create a solution, to put all that time into a solution and you deploy it, if there's no tangible way to say, this was the baseline before, this was the SOR before, this was the retention rate of our classes, this was the occupancy rate. If you can't have something tangible, and it's something that's maybe more subjective, or something that at least wasn't agreed to at the beginning, this is the worst thing that can happen. You could have already made a really great solution, but if you didn't, put in the work to sort of say, how at the end of this are we going to validate this? Maybe it's just saying, well, I want a model that's 97% accurate for 97% of my wells, and that's how we measure success, and that predicting 3 days ahead. But this has to, like, even before you go ahead and make the solution, you have to know how you're going to measure it, because if you don't, you put all that work into it, it could be working, it could not be working. No one knows, and therefore it's very hard to entrench that kind of solution or have it adopted if we don't really know how to measure success. So it could be saying, well, we want to show the shows that people, or the performances that people like the most. Okay, well, are we doing that? Is it how do you measure if they like it the most? What if you filled the seats up because you dropped the price, so retention or the fill rate goes through the roof? Does that mean they liked it the most? And that's really the thing I really want to drill in, because if this White Wells has made the mistake in the past of sort of just, okay, we're really hungry to deploy this solution, and we get to the end of it, and it turns out that to measure success for what we were building is quite difficult. And so we refined our process now, and I can't stress this point enough. You can't measure to the change, the baseline, whatever improvement you're making. It will be tough. It will be tough to sell internally. It will be tough to be adopted, and it will be tough to have retention and subscription, for that to be used. And then remember too that there is an optimal limit. So it's not to say that a solution, let's say, like, reduces SOR. It doesn't mean you can reduce SOR indefinitely, but it means you can get it to a place and then hold it there. And if they can see a trend in the right direction, and even if it flattens out, well, at least we took it in the right direction and it's optimized. And there'll be a case where if you can't do that, and let's say you already said, okay, we're going to measure success in this way, and it's also important because it keeps the data analytics honest, and you can say, okay, we're not seeing the results, and be the first to admit it, right? So again, this is what I feel is very important. Is make sure that this is embedded in any endeavor, in any solution you're going to deploy. This has to be there.
I'm going to be talking about DeepSea. So this is something that Rob had mentioned a few times during his presentation. So DeepSea is a data platform that was developed internally at White Whale. And it's the way that we deliver our solutions to our clients. So the platform is focused on trying to make analytics as accessible and user-friendly as possible. And so some of the ways we do this is to encourage collaboration with our clients. And this is achieved through delivering solutions that our clients can actually interact with very quickly. And they can explore it. They can even tweak and modify the visuals that we provide for them in our solutions. And really, at the end of the day, something that Rob had mentioned was that the client, or whoever you're developing the solution for, like, they are the subject matter experts of their business, and so they're just going to have some insights that you don't really have. Maybe they want to see a slightly different chart, or they want to see a different table. So empowering them in that way is really helpful. And so by allowing them to tweak and modify the solution, or even interact with the solution at a very early stage in the development, this allows the feedback loop to kind of start. So the client can look at an early stage of the solution, they can give you a bit of feedback, and then you can go through faster iterations of development of that solution. And this is where the communication part is super important, making sure that you communicate really well with your clients. So the reason why this fast feedback loop and fast iteration is so important, especially for White Whale, is that it results in a shorter timeline. And when you're a smaller organization or a smaller team, that shorter timeline is a huge, like it's a significant competitive edge against like some bigger names. Or even like within your own team, like if you propose something to your boss and you say, hey, this is, I think I want to work on a data science solution. If you can give them something in their hands or give the end user something that they can interact with early, that's how you win people over quickly. And really at the end of the day, arming the client or the end user with that data insight, it'll just help them get to to improving their business decisions much quicker. So DeepSea has a number of different features, and I don't really want to go into a list of features or anything like that. But from a broad overview, what it is, it's a platform that allows you to deploy models that other people can interact with. They can enter in customized parameters. And by models, it's primarily through a Python script. And then the end user can interact with the outputs through visualization on an interactive dashboard. And what this allows, it allows the non-technical user, maybe, or the technical user to really apply their domain knowledge and to explore that solution. So with that said, DeepSea has primarily been an internal tool that we have used to deliver solutions. So you can kind of see on the screen there, the animation here of, this is basically a screenshot of one of our solutions that we've deployed to a number of different clients. Just to kind of show you, like, this is what the software actually looks like, or what the platform actually looks like. But we're looking for trial users, so anybody who's interested in building and deploying a solution on the platform, like maybe you already have a project in mind, or maybe this presentation has inspired a new idea or something like this. We would love to hear from you, but feel free to reach out to Rob or myself, or you can reach out to us directly through our emails, or you can contact us at contact@whitebill.ai.